I'm recording my homily for Daily Mass homily for Friday, March 20th. When my family would come up to Seattle, so we lived in Texas, and we would come up in the summers, not every summer, but we would drive up as a family and we would visit my grandma who lived in Ballard. And one of the things I noticed about my grandma, which was different than, let's say, my mom and my dad or my friends, was her perception of just, I guess, the world, where she would save everything. Everything was important. You didn't waste anything. And to waste something was tantamount to sin, even though she wasn't a believer. She didn't believe in any particular faith at all. But if there was a sin, it was being wasteful. And when I would ask my mom this, as I remember this one story, so I was sick actually. I had the cold or flu or something. And she came in, she was actually visiting us at the time, and she came into my bedroom, my grandma, and she looked at the tissues that I had used, and she said, "Oh, these still need to be used a little bit more." And I remember being a little insulted. It's like, are you saying I'm wasting these tissues by not using them enough? But that was her mindset. And so my mom would say that was because she went through the Depression. And so the Depression left this mark on her. It left a mark on her entire generation about how they perceived things, right? Because they knew what it was like to not have things. In confession, every once in a while, I'll have somebody who will come in and say, "Father, I did this, X, Y, and Z, and I knew it was wrong, but I just felt like I was caught off guard. It was like the circumstances just caught me off guard and I was weak. And because of that, I gave in to the temptation." And so I think something that we're going through right now, our generation is going to be marked by this whole coronavirus thing. And I think we feel like we've been caught off guard. We weren't ready for it. And because of that, we're never going to forget it. And you know what we do when we get caught off guard and it's really bad? I was just reading an article about Italy right now, and Italy is getting hit hard right now. I mean, they're really struggling. There's a lot of people dying in Italy. And they're never going to let themselves get caught off guard again. At least that generation. And then the next generation will wonder why everybody keeps, 200 rolls of toilet paper in their house, or canned food for a year, or boxes of Kleenex and hand sanitizer, the storage rooms of this. People are going to wonder, because they went through this, they got caught off guard. Now, that means that because of this, people are going to prepare. So the gospel today is about the 2 commandments. So let's just repeat these commandments, right? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and all your strength, right? And then the second commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. Did you notice in both of these commandments, it seems to imply pretty strongly that you need to know yourself, your mind, your heart, your soul, your strength. You need to know your whole self. In order to love God completely, you have to be in control of yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to be prepared. You have to prepare yourself in order to love God completely. In other words, it doesn't just happen. You have to choose it. And then the second commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. It means you have to know yourself in order to love your neighbor fully, so that you can love your neighbor as yourself, right? And so these 2 commandments to me seem to imply preparation. Being prepared for what the world can throw us so that we don't get caught off guard spiritually. Because if we do, what happens? Well, some examples of spiritually getting caught off guard: we just get too busy. Life, we get a great job. So what do? We get a great paying job. So we work ourselves into the ground for the job, for the money, right? We got caught off guard. Why? Because maybe we were using our mind for the job, we were using our body for the job, but our soul died in the midst of that, right? Maybe somebody's off balance spiritually. Maybe they're praying a lot, but they're not showing enough charity. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe somebody's out there showing charity, but they just ignore God. They don't pay attention to Him. They don't pray to Him. They don't talk to Him. They don't listen to Him. And so for us to know ourselves spiritually, so that we can prepare ourselves spiritually. Now, in the midst of all of this coronavirus stuff, I know that there's people who are getting caught off guard spiritually as well as in every other way. And what's happening is they've stopped praying because we don't have Mass, right? So they don't come. The kids in our class, maybe because there's no class, they're not learning anything, right? And so in some sense, they're getting caught off guard. They're not taking responsibility for themselves. And then once they take responsibility for themselves, then they can love God completely and then love their neighbor as themselves. Right? All right. Just a reminder that on Sunday we're going to record the Mass on Facebook Live. You don't need Facebook in order to see the video. At least that's what I'm being told. You can go to our website for the link. Because of that, also, the church will be closed between 9:30 and 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday, because we're going to record the Mass in English and then record it in Spanish. And so my apologies for miscommunicating before. I am not doing confessions on Sunday as I originally planned, because now we're going to be doing the Mass on Facebook. Okay? All right. I think next week we're going to ramp up and do a few other things perhaps on Facebook Live. And but we'll save it for next week. All right. God bless you. Take care.